Hello, everyone. We're just going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, and then we will go ahead and kick off. I still see quite a few attendees coming in, so we'll just give it another minute. Okay, I think that we don't have everyone that registered, but that's okay. We've pretty much hit a good number. So we can go ahead and get started, and this meeting will be recorded, so anybody who comes in late can still go back and take a look at it. My name is Leslie Longstreet. I'm the Global Director of Outreach and Partnerships for the Cyber Readiness Institute, and I will be conducting this Train the Trainer program, and it will last all through July, and then we will kind of have a little bit of a break. You can work on finding the companies that you're going to work with in the future if you'd like, and then we'll kick back off officially again in September and do the last portion. And I've got all of that outlined, and I can send that out after this call, just so everyone's on the same page. But again, this whole program will be conducted in English because that is currently what the Cyber Readiness Institute's materials are in. So if I'm talking too fast or you need me to explain something, Ketty can help with that if it's not translating quite right. So just let one or both of us know. And thank you, Ketty, for helping organize all of this. And then a huge thanks to Tico from Ilias State as well. So ICC Startup and Ilias State, great partners to have here in Georgia. Looking forward to doing this presentation and this training as a whole. Just so you all know, it is our first time doing this training outside of the US. So we launched our first pilot for this type of training in Hawaii about 3 months ago. Pretty excited to be the first international person to do this training. But I'm based here in Georgia, so if there's any questions, I'm in the same time zone as you. Feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to answer them. And I think I just saw a raised hand. As we go through, if you have any questions, either just type them in the chat or raise your hand, and Kete will help us figure that out and call on you if needed. Do you see that, Kete?
No, actually, I don't.
Okay. It looks like it went away, maybe. Okay, yeah. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to toss it in the chat. But we will go ahead and get started, and I'll cover the agenda. This should take about an hour. It might go a little longer if there's specific questions, but we prepped for an hour. If anybody needs to stop, feel free, raise hands, ask questions. I think that it makes sense to do a little bit of introduction for CRI and trainees. If you guys want, you can kind of just post in the chat about where you're from, what you do, things like that. I will get to meet all of you individually as we go through this process. So feel free to just make this a very conversational relationship, and I am here to help you guys and help you learn to make your company more cyber ready. Next, we'll cover an introduction to CRI and why cyber readiness matters for small and medium-sized enterprises, or just enterprises, businesses, organizations as a whole. And then we will cover the cyber readiness basics. Most of you who sat through the bilingual webinar are aware of the core 4 issues, but we'll just kind of dive into those a little bit more in detail. Not too much more, because you'll be going through the Cyber Readiness Program that really takes a deep dive into those. And then developing a practical incident response plan is extremely important. And you guys will also be learning how to do that when you're going through the Cyber Readiness Program. Influencing behavior and to build a cyber ready culture. This is extremely important, especially since you all are here, because you're not only wanting to help influence your own organization, you're wanting to help let other organizations learn how to become more cyber ready as well. So not just, this program is not just focused for your organization and your personal self, but also to go out and be able to explain cyber readiness to other people. And then we'll briefly touch on the challenges of hybrid and remote work. If we want to dive more into that, just let me know. And then we'll cover what the Cyber Squad leader is. And then we'll have next steps and Q&A at the end. But I think we can go ahead and get started. So here we have the Becoming a Certified Cyber Squad Leader. Part 1, July, attend all webinar trainings on cyber readiness, complete the Cyber Readiness Program, and complete the Cyber Leader Certification Program and pass the test. Both of them have tests, and you will get a certification at the end of both of those just for completing those programs. Part 2, which will officially kick off in September, but you should have your company that you're going to work with identified prior to September, so we can hit the ground running in September to go ahead and start working with those companies, and then you will be leading that company through the Cyber Readiness Program. If you need help identifying a company, ICC and Elias State are here. Keti and Tico have volunteered to help you guys find organizations if you don't already have one in mind. Then complete the web-based training on how to verify that an SME is cyber ready. This may become optional. I'm not sure if we will have this portion completed by the time September rolls around, because it's going to be on the Cyber Readiness website. But if that's there, that's going to be a good tool for you to have in your back pocket. And then conduct an evaluation of one SME to verify that they are cyber ready. That's just, again, finding an organization outside of your own, whether it's your friends, your colleagues, something along those lines, the winery down the road, you name it. Conducting an evaluation of that company or organization to verify that they are cyber ready. And it literally could just be a checklist. We'll go through that as we get into September. But for now, in July, everything is going to be mostly at your own pace. I will cover the dates for specific things at the end of this conversation. But we'll just go to the next slide. So why cyber readiness matters for small and medium-sized enterprises. The Cyber Readiness Institute, most of you guys know this because if you sat through the bilingual webinar that we had a couple weeks ago. But we were founded by a few senior leaders of global companies and their value chain partners to create the Cyber Readiness Institute. And the idea of the Cyber Readiness Institute is to make cybersecurity accessible and free for small businesses, and really make it prescriptive for small businesses. And ExxonMobil is not going to want to have the same cybersecurity plan as, I don't know, 8,000 vintages. We'll just go with that. 8,000 vintages is going to have a little bit more prescriptive, more scaled down version of cybersecurity than like an ExxonMobil. But that doesn't mean that their goals are not the same, just the tools to get them there are different. Kind of like a pediatrician for kids and a doctor for adults. At the end of the day, the goal is the same, is to have a healthy human being, but the tools to get them there are very different. So that is what Cyber Readiness does. We have the Cyber Readiness Program. We now have the Cyber Leader Program, which you guys will all go through as well. The starter kit is great for any company that just wants to learn more about cyber, but is not ready to go through the whole process. And then multiple other guides and playbooks. Here are some of our members, and they are who give us the funding to be able to provide free information for small and medium-sized enterprises. Also help fund this program, which is great. So you can see all the logos there. We'll be adding a couple more to those in the near future, and hopefully they'll be public before the end of the session because they're very exciting names. So the CRI approach has a focus on human behavior. And this is extremely important because so many small and medium-sized enterprises or organizations think that they don't have the financial capability to have a cyber-ready culture or to have any sort of cybersecurity. But CRI focuses on human behavior and guidance and tools on preventative measures and practical incident response plans for these companies. And this is extremely important because as you've all seen in the news with like ransomware and things like that, at the end of the day, it's generally a human error. Someone's clicking on a link. Someone's giving out information that they should not be giving out over the phone. Either way, it all comes down to the human. You can have the best tech, and at the end of the day, it could still fail because of a human. But you can get 90% of the way there by having good practical policies. So the idea is to create a cyber readiness culture within your organization and then teach others how to create a cyber ready culture, reduce cyber risk in practical ways, secure supply chain. It's extremely important because we're all connected, whether we like to think about it or not. If you have an email, you are connected to Google or Yahoo or you name it. The cyber leader is the individual within an organization that is going to be driving this approach within the organization. So let's say we've got a manager that's not a CEO, so they don't own the company, but they have some influence over the company. That is a good candidate for a cyber leader, someone that can be able to talk to all levels of the company and then drive in a direction. So that's extremely important for you all to be thinking about as we're going through this process. And when you're helping the companies in the future identify a cyber leader, that's something that you should consider. And then we also have the Small Business Advisory Group for CRI. It's really great because they help give us feedback on our program and all of that, but they also provide us input on what small and medium-sized enterprises globally and domestically in the US are dealing with. But we do have quite a few international partners. ICC is one of those, and they're fantastic. So they help us learn more about what small and medium-sized businesses are going through. So what is cyber readiness? You guys have heard me mention this a couple times. It's taking practical steps to prevent cyber attacks by focusing on human behavior related to 4 core issues and knowing what to do if an incident occurs. Extremely important, seems really simple, but being able to have these policies around these core 4 issues and communicating those to your entire workforce is extremely important. So just a couple highlights on the program if you guys are like, oh, I don't know if this is the right thing for me or not. 76% of the Cyber Readiness Program's users who have actually completed the program report that it had a high to very high impact on their cyber readiness. It's a pretty high number. I'm pretty excited about it just because I think that our program does a really good job of breaking things down and as one of my colleagues likes to say, demystifying cybersecurity, making it not seem so scary, making it very accessible and hands-on. So we'll go ahead and cover the core 4, the cyber readiness basics. You guys will all be able to repeat these in your sleep by the end of this and by the end of July for sure. So building a cyber ready culture. The goal is to embed cyber readiness into how people do their jobs. People are the key, processes need to be practical, and technology needs to help enhance cybersecurity while enabling job performance. It should not put a damper on everything that you're doing within your organization. It should be practical and workable, or else you're going to create a workaround culture and people will just ignore what you're telling them to do and do what they were doing before anyway. So you guys have mostly seen these slides before. Passwords, everyone knows that passwords are extremely important. They're very irritating to have to keep up to date, unique, long and complex. But at the end of the day, 80% of breaches could be prevented by using two-factor authentication. And two-factor authentication is just having an extra step, whether it's a verification with a phone number, a verification with an email, a verification through like Google Authenticator app. Any of these things can really help prevent data breaches just by having an added layer of protection. So if somebody did guess your potentially weak password or they socially engineered a way to get your password, then there's still a chance that they can't gain access to your account because you have an extra layer of protection. I mentioned social engineering. 17% of people use their favorite sports team and their current year as their password. This is just something that people could find on social media, whether it's Facebook, your LinkedIn. They can see where you live and then go in and maybe they send you a message and be like, hey, I like that team too. Do you remember when they won the national championship or something along those lines? So hackers are really smart. They oddly enough have a lot of time on their hands and they're just in it to either wreak havoc or make money. So they like to get information as easily as they possibly can. And social engineering is a pretty good way to do that. Software updates. 77% of attacks in 2017 took advantage of vulnerabilities in the software already on computers. This is extremely important also. Software updates or patching, basically if there's, we'll just use the tent analogy here. If you've got a hole in your tent, you're not gonna just let the rain keep coming in. You're gonna go find a patch or get a piece of tape and patch that up. And companies, software, and all of those types of companies generally will test their own software as they're going through it. And even after they've released it, they will send updates for you if they found either like a new vulnerability or something that's been there forever, like a 0-day or something along those lines. But that's why it's extremely important to have auto updates turned on and actually take the time to restart your computer. If you're looking for an example for like your company or your organization, maybe say like every Tuesday, because that's when Microsoft releases their patches. It's Patch Tuesday. So maybe say every Tuesday, you should make sure that all of your software is up to date. Yes, a week could be a long time, but it's better than nothing. Phishing, we've all encountered these emails. 91% of all cyber attacks start with a phishing email. 81% of companies that fell for a phishing attack lost customers. This is extremely important because reputation means a lot when it comes to not only large businesses, but also small businesses. If your small business ends up sending out an email to all of your customers saying something, I don't know, embarrassing, or asking them for information that they know you shouldn't be asking for, you're going to suffer reputational damage. So that's why it's good to have some email protections in place and things like that, but also just make sure your company and your workforce is educated on the cyber basics, and knowing what to look for when it comes to phishing emails. USBs, I don't know, like some people still use a lot of USBs. In some places it's important, like in some industries it's important to still have them just for transferring large files back and forth. But in general, if you don't use USBs, or you're like, oh, I would never use that. In general, just think about this as USBs and removable media. Don't ever stick anything weird into your computer that you did not purchase brand new from somewhere, because there's a lot of malware that can be put on those. It's common to just have hackers drop them, or like leave them at conferences, or like, I don't know. It's just in general, unless it's brand new, try not to put it in your computer. Also, if you are using something or some sort of device, try to make it a one-way use. So like, let's say you're giving a presentation somewhere and you're taking your file from your computer and you couldn't email it to them for whatever reason, and you need to take your USB, put it in your computer, and then give the presentation on somebody else's. Try not to stick it back in your computer. Likely it's not going to be an issue, but you never know. But just an interesting stat here is 8 out of 10 employees use non-encrypted USB devices, such as free USBs from conferences. In theory, those could be okay, but think about all of the hands that those have gone through to get that cool company logo on there. You never know what's going to be on it. So unless it's sealed, packaged, try only to use brand new things. All right, and then just a quick page. This is one of my favorite slides because it talks about how fast password crackers can be now. And this is not like a crazy supercomputer cracker. This is like something that some guy could have in his basement, more or less. But ideally, you want to have 12 to 15 character passphrases or passwords. Passphrases are like a sentence, like I walk my dog every Tuesday or something along those lines. It's easy to remember, it's long, and it's the number of characters that matter at the end of the day, not necessarily how unique those characters are. But the idea is to have a unique password for each account. So your Facebook account, your work email, your personal email, your bank, especially things that you care a lot about. If there's things that you don't care about, and if they all get hacked at the same time, it's okay. If you use the same password, we're all kind of guilty of it. That's all right. But for things that actually matter and would matter for business continuity and for financial continuity, try to keep those passwords unique and at least 12 to 15 characters. I think that's right. Yeah. All right, so I will just pause here to see if anybody has any questions before we dive into creating an incident response plan. And if there are none, I will just keep going. All right. I'm not seeing any. Okay. All right. So an incident response plan. This is when you have an incident and you want to, it's basically creating an emergency plan. So if something happens, you need to have a plan for your company that you're not thinking about right when the incident happens or the emergency happens. It's something that you've thought about whenever you're not under a lot of stress, and that you can make actionable decisions when you are under a lot of stress. So like it says here, it's a roadmap for what to do when responding to a security incident. It should have a detailed action plan that is reviewed and practiced in advance. Again, when you're not stressed, you might notice things that might not work so well, or could be thought out a little bit more. Three main elements to an incident response plan are to prepare, respond, and recover. Since ransomware has been such a big topic lately, I think it's important to mention here that preparing for an or a possible future incident would maybe include something along the lines of backing up your software or backing up important documents or payroll, invoices, any of those types of things that you need and that are your, I don't know, crown jewels of whatever your company really focuses on. So prioritize what's most important to you. Make sure that is all backed up, because in the event of a ransomware attack or some sort of other security incident, you have at least that to go back to, and you don't necessarily have to worry about paying ransomware, because ideally you already have all of your data and information backed up. So let's say for some reason you didn't have a backup, or your backup was damaged for some reason, or you didn't get to test it last month, and you notice that only half of your data got backed up. So then that would be where the response portion of the incident response plan comes in. And that is, you will have laid out steps, and in the CRI program, it walks through how to do this. So you basically will create your own steps for what you need to do as an organization to recover from this incident, or to respond to the incident. And then the next step after that is how to recover, and that's putting all the puzzle pieces back together. Once you've decided whether to pay the ransom or not, so on and so forth, cut ties, just reboot, call it a loss. Whatever you decide to do in the respond phase, then you execute in the recover phase. So that is that. Kind of what I was talking about before is identify what is most important to your organization and what is going to be like make it or break it if you can never have it again. Because at the end of the day, you never want to be put in a position where you're losing half of your company that you've worked years and years for, or half of the I don't know, invoice that you spent the last 6 months working on, and you're finally going to get that pay date, and it doesn't come through because you had an incident and it's gone forever. So basically, just identify what's important: confidential business information, trade secrets. If you're in healthcare, personal health information, personal identifiable information, PII. That's pretty much any business has that, because they likely have addresses, credit card numbers, potentially like passport numbers or driver's license if you're some sort of like in the hospitality industry. Email communications, website, purchase order processing, payroll, payment. All of these things are extremely important. And if you were to lose them, what could you not live without? So those are the things that you prioritize in your plans. So helping companies get started, a risk-based approach. Again, prioritize. Identify what's most important to you. Identify what's most likely to get lost. Are people going to care about your Word document that you have all of your clients listed on? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, if you are getting attacked, then you will probably have everything encrypted. It's much better to just have everything backed up. Identify what would cause the worst damage. Consider damage from data loss or public release of data. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about before about the reputational damage. Consider damage from systems being down for long hours, days, or weeks. Again, business continuity. And help whatever company, whether your own or another, evaluate the damage to their reputation and the recovery costs. And I'm going to pause here because I see a couple questions coming through. Oh, never mind. Jesse, could you grab that? Thanks. So we'll just go ahead and go to the next page unless anybody has any questions currently. And we will dive right into influencing behavior to build a cyber ready culture. So small business owner, manager, someone who has influence within an organization. That's going to be who the cyber leader is. And they need to understand risk, build awareness, and that's educating their workforce, show leadership commitment, and provide resources for implementation. The resources CRI will help you with, we have a lot of tools and we're happy to help you walk through that. Understanding risk, kind of the things that we just talked about in the last couple of slides, understanding what's the most important to you and how to prioritize protecting that. And then building awareness, again, communicating. So people are the key. Cyber readiness is all about the people and their behavior. The goal, you guys are going to get so tired of hearing this. I love it. Embed cyber readiness into how each person does their job, develop good cyber habits, and create a culture of cyber readiness within the organization. To achieve this, practical policies and procedures need to be extremely practical, doable, or else you're going to have a workaround culture. And I think if the next slide does not talk about that, I'm going to talk about that. Yes, okay. So creating practical policies and procedures, ensure that people understand exactly why cyber readiness is important and why they need to be involved. Involve them in developing these policies. If you just tell someone that they have to update their password every month just because, and they have no say in that, they're probably not going to do it. So it's really important to get them involved and help educate them on why it's really important. And then make sure the policies and procedures are easily accessible. So in a place that everyone can find them, no matter what time of the day it is, and well communicated. So I just want to mention here that helping people understand why cyber readiness is important is, it goes back to the whole, if you're not involved, you don't care about it, you're definitely not going to really care at all, and you're probably just going to ignore it and continue doing what you were doing before. So it's really important to involve people and not create a workaround culture. So there's no questions, I will jump into hybrid, remote, and office workplace. Do people work in remote or hybrid offices currently? Just maybe raise your hand if you do. That would be helpful. Okay, perfect. All right, I see at least 1 or 2 people. 3, all right, cool. I feel like a lot of people, even if they were not working in a hybrid or remote place prior to COVID, now are working in a hybrid or remote workplace. That kind of is what prompted CRI to put together a couple guides and things like that, was because of the sudden shift to the hybrid workplace. And I really like this meme. It's just kind of funny. For health reasons, we'll be transitioning to cybercrime, and it's a bunch of mobsters. Kind of true. Hackers' jobs are a little easier than actual mobsters. All right. So remote work. Key questions. Which devices will employees use? Will they have laptops? Will they have company phones? Will they have tablets? You name it. How will employees connect to your network? Are you going to have a VPN? Are you going to just allow employees to connect to their home network and you reimburse them for internet, or are they responsible for that on their own? These are just questions to consider when you're talking through remote work. How will employees access, manage, and protect information? That comes back to PII, invoices, payroll, anything that they are required to have to do their job. How are they going to get to it, and how are they going to protect not only themselves, but also the information? So managing remote workers, devices, a lot of companies choose to go with the company issued devices, which is kind of nice. There's pros and cons to all of these. Company issued devices allow you to put security in place on the devices and potentially not have the employee be the admin on the actual box or device, which is kind of a nice thing, because then they can't accidentally download things that they don't intend to download and things like that. Or you could do personal devices, which offers a little bit more flexibility. You don't have to come into the office to get, I don't know, Microsoft Word downloaded on your computer, but it does open up a little bit more risk because they are likely owning their own device. They're the admin on that box, or shared personal, or shared company issued. Are you going to have more than one employee using a device? And then obviously the least secure is probably a public device. If you're having to go to like the local library, or I don't know, are they called internet cafes, where you go in and you sit there and you use computers that other people have. Definitely not the most secure if you're doing anything that needs to stay protected. As far as connections go, home Wi-Fi, you can create policies around this to help it be more secure. Either require people to use VPNs, or require them to change the default password on their Wi-Fi router, different things like that. You could have a company issued hotspot. Those are pretty common now, especially with as much as people travel. Personal hotspot, same thing. Pretty common now with as much as people travel. Public Wi-Fi, again, not the best thing. In general, try to avoid connecting to public Wi-Fi. There are so many ways that hackers can get into your device through that, or just not even get into your device, but I'll just get all nerdy for a second. There's these things called like Wi-Fi pineapples, and they can basically mimic a network. And you could think that you're connecting to like the coffee shop Wi-Fi, but you're not actually connecting to the coffee shop Wi-Fi, because they've come in and without you knowing, they're now monitoring all of your traffic that you're doing on your computer. It is the coolest thing ever. And if you ever get a chance to watch videos on it, go do it. It's awesome. But it's really bad whenever you're trying to protect your information and keep your passwords protected. People could also like be looking over your shoulder when you're in a public situation. Just be aware, try to avoid connecting to public Wi-Fi. If you are connecting to public Wi-Fi, use a VPN. Access and data management, data and system access. So do you have a cloud server? Things like that. What is the password for the cloud server? How many people have access to the admin side of that cloud server? File transfers, USBs, we've talked about that before. Not ideal, but if you have to use it, make sure you're creating policies around it, such as a one-time use USB, something along those lines, or potentially look at cloud options and just make sure you're controlling the admins on those cloud. Version control and naming. Again, this is kind of keeping track of who has access to what and things like that. So remote workforces, top 3 do's and don'ts. Do use a separate password or passphrase for work and personal. Definitely update all software on all devices. And again, use multi-factor authentication. Don't, this comes back to phishing, click on links or attachments in emails, especially from people you don't know, or if something just looks a little fishy. If I get an email from a salesperson, 9 times out of 10, if I see in the preview that it has an attachment, I will automatically delete it. And if they want to talk to me bad enough, they might send another one with just some words. But it happens, and that's a pretty common way that phishing happens, is they'll send you a malicious attachment or a link that doesn't look quite right. Another tip there is you can hover over your cursor over the link in the email, and you can see the URL that it will send you to. So you could do that, and if it doesn't look quite right, or it doesn't look like it, or it has too many characters or something along those lines, just don't click on it. Worst case, go to the company's website or whoever is trying to give you that information and ask them to send it in a different way, or just pick up the phone and call and ask if it was a legit link. Don't send your passwords or bank info by email. Don't use USBs, public computer, or Wi-Fi if possible. If you do, again, make sure you're logging out every time if you're using public computers. And if you're using public Wi-Fi, if you can have a VPN, that's ideal. So here we go. We'll just do, this kind of is just reiterating, separating your work from your personal cyber environment. Use different computers, create different accounts. So let's say you have a SharePoint or a Dropbox account, and you want to use both for like work and personal. It's better just to keep them separated, because if someone gets access to your personal email, you don't want them to get access to your personal Dropbox, and vice versa. When working, just focus on work. I know it's hard. Don't surf the web, stream videos, because that will, I don't know, if you're connected to a VPN, your company can see all of your traffic too, and that's could be kind of awkward. But in general, try to just keep work on work devices. Cyber squad roles, spreading cyber readiness. This is going to dive into what you guys are all here for, which is not only becoming a cyber leader for your organization, but also for others. So build awareness of cyber readiness, prevention, incident response, help develop cyber leaders in each small business, help develop practical policies and effective training and communication, verify cyber readiness of SMEs. So just kind of an overview of what a cyber squad leader is. And again, I'm sure you guys all saw this when you registered. You'll end up with 3 certifications at the end of this. You'll get the cyber leader certification, the cyber readiness certification, cyber leader certification, and then also the cyber squad leader certification if you go through the entire program and leading a company through at the end of September. So we will just cover some training and communication tips. Changing behavior requires initial training reinforced by frequent and short communications. People are not going to actually implement anything that you tell them if you make them sit there for an hour and a half and tell them all of the things that they're doing wrong and then all of the ways that they're going to fix it. Ideally, you train them once in potentially a longer training. Don't tell them everything that they've been doing wrong, but tell them things that they could do to fix it. And then keep reinforcing by giving them updates and check-ins and just being in constant communication with your workforce or with the company that you're working with. Make sure you're telling the cyber leader within that company to be doing frequent check-ins with their companies or with their employees. So use relevant scenarios that are relevant to employees. A Microsoft software chip company is not going to care about the insurance person's passwords. They just won't care, and they're not going to understand the stories. Like the software nerd guy is not going to care at all about the people person. So just be clear about the difference between building awareness, gaining commitment, and teaching them how to implement. Just let them know that it's in it for everyone. It's a good thing for everyone to be cyber ready, and that it will help protect them and their jobs in the future. Because again, it goes back to reputation and making sure everyone is cyber secure. Tips for ongoing communication. Focus on developing one habit at a time with a monthly cyber readiness theme. Potential idea. Send a short weekly alert to highlight new cyber threats and reinforce the importance of cyber readiness. We have a cyber readiness email that goes out to anybody who takes our program. So if you are interested in that, I think that you'll get signed up for that when you sign up with the link that I send you after this. But it has relevant information about not only what CRI is doing, but also what's going on in the world. Could be interesting. There's also a lot of like news aggregators out there that could give you like the hottest cyber news if you're interested. But if you're just looking for high level, what affects you, the CRI newsletter is pretty good. So that is it for the actual training portion of this webinar. But I just kind of want to walk through next steps, and then we can go through any questions. And again, just email me if you have any questions. you'll get this presentation as well as this link. It will all come out to you later this evening in a follow-up email from my colleague Vivek. But the next step for this particular program is to go to this link here. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see in yellow, but click on this link. I know I just told you all presentation not to click on links, but use this one. There will also be one in the email that goes out to you after this. And this is your unique link for the Train the Trainer in Georgia. And it'll just let me and my colleagues track your progress as you're going through this. So use this to sign up for the program. If you have any issues, please let me know. Once you've completed the program, if you don't mind emailing me your certificate of completion, I will then send you the link for the Cyber Leader program. You can access all of these programs on our site, but for this Train the Trainer program, we wanted to make sure we had you guys separated a little bit just so you don't get lost in the mix, and we're able to see the metrics a little bit better. And then I was hoping to do a July 21st check-in call after everyone has completed the Cyber Readiness Program and started on the Cyber Leader Program on July 21st. That is 2 weeks from now. And I think that you won't have any trouble going through the Cyber Readiness Program in a week. It's very doable. You'll enjoy the information. There's videos. It's very interactive. But then the Cyber Leader Program is a little bit more involved. And I just want to make sure I'm checking in with you guys before you've really taken a deep dive into that. See one question on here. How many trainings are recommended for SMEs and with what frequency? It should be, or should it be a single training or a regular? I would say it depends on your workforce, and if you're supplementing the like in-person or virtual trainings with like reminders and things like that. It could probably be quarterly, biannual, something along those lines. If you're also doing regular like email notifications, like every other week email notifications. Does that answer your question, Anna? And if there's no other questions, we have a little bit of time left. So if there's anything that anybody wants me to cover a little bit more in detail, happy to. I see a couple people have their hands raised, so I will let you talk if you would like, Anna.
There also are hi. There are also some questions.
All right. Okay. Anna, did you have any more questions, or did that cover it?
Hell no, thank you. No, it's just by mistake. Thank you. You answered my question already.
Okay. All right. And then I see a question in the chat. What do you think is the overall situation in Georgia in terms of cyber readiness? Honestly, I don't know. I know that there are some companies that are more advanced than others and are more aware of it. But I've done a couple trainings so far here in Georgia. I've probably done, I don't know, 3 or 4. And there's always people that have interesting questions and seem to like the fundamentals that CRI covers. There's been maybe probably 20% of the people that I've given talks to have said that they want the next level of cyber readiness, and that they've covered the fundamentals and they really want to dive more into like the technical side of things. So I would say fundamentally, people are aware of these core 4 issues, or at least some of them. But as far as the more technical side of things and actually implementing the core 4 and policies behind that, it could use some work. But that's honestly everywhere in the US as well. So. Right.
There is another question in Q&A section.
Which VPN do I recommend? There's a lot of different options out there. Some are more expensive than others. At the end of the day, just remember that if you're getting something for free, they're likely taking something back, whether it's your data or something along those lines. But there's quite a few out there. ExpressVPN, NordVPN, those are all pretty good. But just do your research. There's sites that you can see too where they will route traffic through and all of that. So just do research. If you have more specific questions, happy to talk offline. And I see one, is it difficult to convince employees that cybersecurity is important? I would say it could be in some situations, because a lot of people think that they would never be under attack. It's a very common theme with small and medium-sized enterprises to say that no hacker would ever want my information. I have nothing that a hacker would have any interest in taking, and they couldn't do anything with it. But if you have any sort of email connectivity, if you have any sort of like payment processing, like whether it's a credit card machine, like you're working with Bank of Georgia or with TBC, anything like that, they might not be targeting you, but they might be targeting the bigger guy that's out there. So if you're having trouble convincing people that cybersecurity is important, you can always say that, hey, we might not be like the hacker's primary target, but we fit into the whole big chain of cybersecurity for the rest of the world. And there are tools within the program that you can use to help convince people or educate people, I guess. And at the end of the day, education is the biggest issue.
Also, there was one more question before from Maya. I think if the recording can be shared afterwards.
Yes. So the recording will be shared. The presentation will be shared. You guys will all have my email. I'll make sure that my colleague Vivek adds that. So if you see an email from Vivek at the Cyber Readiness Institute, it's legit, it's okay. And so we'll just move forward from there. Please feel free to reach out to me as we start moving forward in this process. And we get closer to September and into September, I will start having one-on-one calls with you all as well, just to make sure you're all understanding the Cyber Squad leader role, and you're totally understanding the cyber leader role as well. So I know that most people take off during August and go travel, but I'm still more or less around. I'll be out of town for a little bit, but feel free to reach out in general. But I'm here all through July. So thank you all so much for joining. I think we've got 18 people on here, which is a fantastic number. It's officially our biggest Train the Trainer so far for CRI. So thank you to everyone for joining, and I hope that you guys all stick through this entire program. It's going to be a long process, but I think that you'll come out at the end with a lot of really great skills. And if there's a question that I can't answer, I've got a lot of colleagues and friends that can. So just let me know. My email's open. Feel free. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Leslie, for providing the interesting webinars always.
Thanks. All right, so I will see you all again this time. If this was a good time for everyone, let me know. If there's a crazy reason that it doesn't work, if there's a holiday or something that I'm missing. But I think July 21st at the same time is a good time for the next call. And keep an eye out for the link and go ahead and start working on that program. Thank you all. Bye-bye.